Okay, I'm a historian, so I kind of pick topics about history to give examples on. So another possible research topic you could do would be on Mimar Sinan. Okay, everyone knows Mimar Sinan. Well, at least in Turkey they do. But there's a lot of things that you could do about Mimar Sinan that would be useful for not just people in Turkey, but for the world, because actually, outside of like academics and maybe a little bit in popular culture, people don't actually know that much about Mimar Sinan. And if you're interested, there is a fantastic book in the library. It's an ebook. This book actually has Mimar Sinan's autobiography in it, what he wrote about his own life and achievements. So for example, it's got this great story. I love this story. When Mimar Sinan was building Süleymaniye, it was going kind of slow. Like it was taking a long time, there were lots of problems, and Süleyman was getting upset about this. So Süleyman one day, he like rode over, with all of his ministers, and when he came, and he's like, what's the problem? Why is everything taking so long? This architect is not doing a good job, and his ministers and advisors are like, yeah, this Mimar Sinan guy, don't trust him. He's not a very good architect. You should get a new architect. So he, asked Mimar Sinan to come see him, and again, Mimar Sinan wrote this down. He tells the story. He says, I saw that the Sultan was angry, and the Sultan said to me, like, okay, when is this going to be finished? And Mimar Sinan said, 2 months. And everyone's like, oh, no. There's no way you're going to finish this. There's so many things that need to be done. This is going to take like a year or 2 years to finish, not 2 months. And Mimar Sinan's like, no, I'll have it all finished in 2 months. So Süleyman's like, okay. So Süleyman goes back to the palace, and he's talking to his ministers. He's thinking, he's like, no. This architect, he's crazy. There is no way he's going to be finished with this in 2 months. Go back and talk to him and check with him that he can really do this in 2 months. And actually what Süleyman was doing, and I'm of course summarizing, paraphrasing, and interpreting, is that basically Süleyman was trying to give him a second chance. Because if Mimar Sinan said, I'm going to finish this in 2 months, and then he didn't finish it in 2 months, he was going to be in big trouble, like maybe even he'd be executed or something. So really, actually, Süleyman was saying like, hey, tell this guy, chill out, it's cool, you don't have to have it done in 2 months, just give me like a realistic schedule, like you have it done in whatever, 6 months, a year. So again, the guys go back to Mimar Sinan, and they're like, okay, Süleyman's giving you a second chance, when will the mosque be finished? And Mimar Sinan's like, 2 months, I promise. And they're like, listen, dude, don't say 2 months. There's no way you're going to do this, and you're going to end up like executed or exiled. It will not be good for you. So come on, seriously, how long will it take you? Mimar Sinan's like, 2 months. They're like, okay, man, we warned you. So they go back to Süleyman. They say 2 months. Mimar Sinan, he gets all the workers together, and he says, listen, guys, it's so important we finish this. And he really motivates all the workers. And then 2 months later, Süleyman and all of his people come back, and Süleymaniye is finished. Everything's finished. And everyone's really, really impressed. And there's, the gate to the mosque outside. And there's a ceremony of like opening the door for the first time. And everyone's saying, okay, like who's going to open the door? And like, well, of course, Süleyman should open the door. And Süleyman's like, no, Mimar Sinan should open the door. He did this incredible thing. We're going to honor him by letting him open the door. So that's what happens. And there are a bunch of great stories in this book, in Mimar Sinan's autobiography. He talks about not only Süleyman, but Selim, Rustam. And it's a fascinating book that most people haven't read. So hey, that's not only a source, but it could be what you base your whole research project off of. Or take something like this book. This is a guide to Mimar Sinan's buildings in Istanbul. Now, this book is not very deep because it's like a quick guide. But using this book, you could get some basic information about a few places, and then you could do more research about that building, and then you could create a guide for that building. And again, I mean, I've been to many famous buildings of Mimar Sinan's. And sometimes I've had people with me who have told me things like, oh, that's a famous column because of blah, 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 you know, that's famous. But, you know, oftentimes they don't remember why it's important. So, you know what? Cool. Come up with a guide that tells a visitor to Selimiye or Suleymaniye or to one of the famous bridges in Edirne that Mimar Sinan built, explaining why it's important and telling them what to look at. This could be, again, an audio guide where you say, okay, walk there, turn right, and you will see a column. This column is important for these reasons. Finally, your sources can help you with your research project because, again, maybe you want to do something about Istanbul, and you find you know, some kind of book like this, 100 famous Byzantine places in Istanbul. And again, you pick one of them and do something about it. Or, this is a fascinating book about Ottoman buildings and monuments, not in Turkey, but in Greece, in the Balkans. Now, you are probably not going to be able to travel to any of these places and see any of these buildings. But what you can do is take the information in this book and create a short guide for other people, because probably a lot of people don't realize how many Ottoman buildings and monuments there are outside of Turkey. So again, think about your audience and think, would they be interested in learning about famous Ottoman architecture and monuments in other countries?